Good morning to all.
Good morning, sir.
Great. It means people are listening. Every day I'm getting a can say a problem escalation about the sound. So I think today everything will be sorted out. But I don't know why this problem is happening with your class only. I'm taking around the 2-3 class every day, but they are not facing a problem of audio. I don't know what is happening with this internship group. Okay. Am I clear today, Shrikant?
Yes, sir, you're clear.
Great. So we'll start in 2-3 minutes. Meanwhile, if you have any points till last class, let me know. The purpose of today's and tomorrow class is to help you to design a blockchain. It means mainly I'll focus on what are the components of a blockchain, who are the major actor into a blockchain, and does a company have a need of blockchain or not? Because if I or we want to decide or we want to develop a blockchain for any company or any project or any activity, first we have to understand whether there is a need of blockchain or not. Because we can't use blockchain for the sake of using it. Like if you, I think that I've become into an expert into blockchain, so it's better to implement blockchain everywhere. That should not be a case. That should not be a practical approach of using blockchain. So in today's class, I try to teach you what are the actors, what are the major components in a blockchain designing, what are the algorithms used as a ledger while recording all these information, and what are the criteria to use a successful blockchain implementation project. Like if these are the criteria, if these are the certain character which is required into my project, so rather than going a centralized process, it's better to use a distributed network or better to use a blockchain platform. So today's class mainly focus on these aspects, and tomorrow I'll show you a certain use cases, mainly for mortgage payment and even in a big data, because although I'm not expert in a big data domain, because my area of work is finance, but still for your benefit, I try to show you the use of a blockchain into a big data industry. Fine. So we'll start our class. Or should be best for 2. Okay, we'll bet for 2 more minutes because only 24 students have joined now. See, if you remember the last class, our today's class start the concept of who are the actors, who are the person who are participating directly into a blockchain designing. In a technical term we use, or you can say in a normal term we use, who are the actors into blockchain architecture, who are the actors into a blockchain designing. So yeah. So my first slide which explains about who are the actors of a blockchain. So how many students have joined? 28. Okay, we'll get 1 more minute. So give a chance to someone else to join if missed. So see, the first slide tell you about the actors of blockchain architecture and why we require to understand who are the actors into any architecture. If you simply try to understand the concept of internet, and I just want to access a Google Doc, I want to access any centralized platform or any centralized data which is available on a Google or any type of shared server or shared network. In that scenario, we do have a certain actor which have their own responsibility. Like if I'm setting attendance sheet on a Google Doc, I'm an owner of that document. I'm the person who has created it. So all the responsibility of the success, tampering, fraud is totally rely on me. While you people are using to update attendance into that Google sheet, so you people are a user of it. User means you have a right to transact, you have a right to make an edit, but you are not the actual owner. The validation of your record will be done by me as I have created this attendance sheet. So I'm a party, I'm an actor, you are an actor at the same time. Google being a server who is setting this document is also act as an actor into it. Then we have a government of India who have decided a certain regulation. If a Google is following these legal aspects, he can easily share a document within India. So when we are talking about an actor or party into any architecture, any network designing, we have to think about the multiple aspects. This multiple aspects will be very much similar to the internet protocol, the internet or a centralized architecture that we are using till now. So if you see into that this diagram, we have a multiple party. It does not necessarily all these multiple parties will be a different person or a different entity. It may be possible a same party can act as a multiple role. Like if you have decided to design a blockchain project for your academic purpose or for your internship purpose or for just to start a blockchain concept, you are the person who are designing it. So you will act as an architect, you will act as a designer, you will also act as a network operator. So it may be possible the same person is acting as a multiple role, or if I'm designing a big project or if I'm thinking about a very big project of a blockchain, it may be possible all these are a different company, different group of people, different setup of people. But here mainly I have to understand, we have tried to understand what are the role of these actors and why these actors become important in a blockchain design. Fine. So see, the major role of a blockchain, if you see that a blockchain, although it's showing as a centralized structure, the blockchain is not centralized. It's a distributed structure, but for a pictorial representation, it's showing a centralized structure. Here you will find that a regulator which help us to perform oversight, which is not required for a permission blockchain. If I'm creating a blockchain for my enterprise, the regulator aspect is limited at a certain extent. Like if you are thinking of designing a blockchain platform for attendance matching in a company. So company is already a registered entity. Company got their registration as per 2013 Act of Company Act of Government of India. So company is a registered entity. Now, company would like to create a blockchain environment for attendance mapping of their employees. So here, the regulator will be the company itself. Company does not require any permission, does not require to perform any legal aspect which is required by any government body or any regulatory body. But now take a case where a bank would like to design a blockchain for their transaction of a customer. Bank required to design a blockchain for a transaction. It means every bank which is operating in India, they are coming under regulation of RBI. So there, although they are designing a blockchain for their customers, but RBI will come into the picture. Without involvement of RBI, without getting a permission, or you can say without getting a regulatory framework from RBI, bank cannot design a blockchain for a transaction purpose. So that's the importance of regulatory body. Here, these parties, blockchain architecture, blockchain developer, and a blockchain network operator, they are the experts into developing this blockchain environment. They are the person who will write the code. They are the person who will design the architect. They are the person who will run everything. So mainly these three, A, B, and O, they are the person who are actually creating a blockchain by writing a code on some blockchain platform. Like in your internship, if you write a code to design certain blockchain, you will act as a blockchain architect, you will act as a blockchain developer, as well as your responsibility is to maintain that network, because you will allow someone to enter into a blockchain. You will decide a certain digital token concept. You will decide a certain digital signature. If I'm fulfilling that criteria, I can be a part of your blockchain. So you will manage the network as well. Fine. Now, after going after this thing or these four, if you come onto this side, the left-hand side of this diagram from here, the most important part of blockchain is a membership service and a blockchain user, because the membership services is talking about you have to provide an identity of work. You have to provide an identity of user. Either you are designing a permission blockchain or a permissionless blockchain. In both the cases, I have to think about a membership services. Like if I'm dealing into a Bitcoin now, which is global and a permissionless network, even into that scenario, I have to design a certain membership function where if anyone enter into my chain, if anyone try to enter or try to do a transaction into a Bitcoin wallet, I will write down hash code. I will write down a hash function. So membership function is always a responsibility of the validator, responsibility of a node, responsibility of a miner to provide a security, to provide a certificate where a person can validate into my network. So if you want to develop a successful blockchain, you want to develop a tamper-proof blockchain, my membership services, my membership function should be so strong that no alien can have a right to tamper my chain. Even if I'm talking about the permissionless environment, if I'm talking about a Bitcoin type of network, I'm talking about network which is open to everyone, but without validation, that should not be added into my block transaction. Like if I open a wallet into a Bitcoin, since I'm a very new person, I does not have any relation with anyone into that Bitcoin environment. But still, when I put my transaction, it's a responsibility of a set of people, it's a responsibility of a set of nodes, it's a responsibility of a miner who will validate my transaction, whether I'm a legitimate or I'm doing an illegitimate activity into this blockchain. So membership function or membership services is a main key background of this entire blockchain. If your membership function or a membership designing or membership protocol is a sound enough, is very complex enough, so nobody can tamper your network. Nobody can place a malicious transaction into your network. Fine. So into this part, that out of these, you can say total actor, this left-hand side part is the more important in terms of making a security, while the this four, I come on right-hand side. Right-hand side four actors are the more important for continuity in a blockchain, while the left-hand side four party is very important for starting a blockchain project. These four are responsible for starting. These four are responsible to maintaining and continue the blockchain in a safe and secure environment. Now, when you see into this part, where we are talking about a traditional data source, or a traditional processing platform. Here, just I want to add 2 points for you people. When I'm designing a blockchain, let's assume I'm designing a blockchain for a Geetham University for examination purpose. I cannot say that I will not collect the data from a traditional system. I cannot say that I will deny to accepting the data of my old data structure. I cannot say that I'll not accept any data from my other previous data set what is used in a Geetham. So my blockchain should have a certain arrangement from where I can create a data structure, I can create an algorithm which may compatible with my existing or traditional data sources. Like if I've designed for examination a platform of a Geetham, I cannot say that the previous version of a Geetham examination, when they are using a pen and paper to write the examination, I does not accept the record of that. Because if I'm not accepting a record, it may be possible the users or the stakeholders who are coming into a blockchain will get a malicious information, will get an information that is not valid for them. Like if first semester examination is, if Geetham has taken a first semester examination on a traditional pen and paper, while the second term examination into a code tantra, third term examination into a blockchain architecture that you people have designed. If I'm not creating any linkage with my traditional data sources or traditional data structure, with my current data structure, I'm not able to produce the exact result of my student. Because if I rely on only third semester, which is conducted within a blockchain, and I'm not relying on the past activity or the past data set which is happening to a Geetham examination, the result, what I'll insert, the output, what will come to me, it is totally something which is not required, totally something which is not desirable. Like if I have to create a CGPA for you people, I require information of examination of every semester. So my blockchain designing should be like that. I can easily take access of a traditional data source. In any case, even there should be an arrangement that I can pass on my blockchain data to a traditional data structure. So for that, I'll design a certain logic. I design a processing platform where I will take the data from a traditional data source. I will pass on data to the traditional data source. The reason behind that, when I'm implementing a blockchain, most of the cases, blockchain as an enterprise level is applied for existing work. In any company which try to implement a blockchain project or try to use a blockchain, they are using for existing work. They are not using for a startup work, or they are generally not using something that they are going to start for a first time. So my blockchain platform should have a compatibility with our traditional data sources, traditional data source, traditional data structure. Fine. And the last actor is a transaction. Like a B2B transaction, block-to-block transaction. Here, B2B does not mean business to business, but is mainly talking about a block-to-block transaction. So when I'm trying to conduct, or when I'm mapping a transaction into a block, always transaction happen between a block-to-block, or even within the block. So if any transaction happening within a block, it will be validated by the person, by the miner, by the architecture who have designed that block. Like if any mark is updated into a BTech courses, it should be validated by a HOD of a BTech. If any mark is added by a MBA student, it should be validated by an HOD of MBA program. If any mark that is done into MBBS courses, if you design a examination platform into a Geetham, then I'm talking about. If MBBS courses, if a transaction happening within one block, so it should be validated by HOD of MBBS. So transaction, B2B transaction and the blockchain user will be validated simultaneously. There should not be that I am validating my transaction at 9:25 and I try to validate my user at a 9:30. Because they will get a two different stamp in my blockchain, and one will be automatically invalidated. If you remember a long chain concept, so the one chain will be eliminated and that become an orphan chain. So it should be take place at the same time. So if I'm ready to follow all activity of these actors, if I keep and I apply the application of all these actors into my blockchain, I am able to develop a very sound, tamper-proof blockchain architecture. Anyone have a confusion to understand the role of these actors? Because you are now going to act as all these three, mainly all these 8. Because when you design your blockchain, you will act as a blockchain user as well. You have to think about a validation of a membership. So you will act for all these 8 in your college project. You will act as all these eight actors. So you will be whole and soul for this blockchain movie. So there are a little bit detail on this slide about the working function of everyone. Right here, if you see that is nothing but the explanation of these actors. What are the actors doing to it? But here I just want to highlight one thing, that is a wallet, because a wallet concept, I think is well known to everyone. When we are using the term wallet, or I think you understand the concept of ledger. I've already explained that smart contract to you. I've already explained the peer network membership. Already explained. The only unexplained thing is event. Okay, fine. So I explained the event wallet, and I think everything else has been explained. Do you have any confusion into other key terms like when we are talking about the component ledger? I've already explained to you. A smart contract I explained in the last class. Peer network,
Yes,
you
yes.
already know that the blockchain is something which will link to peer. Membership, I just explained now. Only thing is left is the event, system management, wallet, and system integration. System integration is fine. So fine. The first thing is wallet. Most of you must using a Paytm wallet or a Google Pay or any type of digital wallet, because it's become a trend into India. Approximately 75% of Indian population is anyhow connected to a digital payment wallet system. So what do you mean by a wallet into a blockchain transaction, and why it's become very necessary? See, if I'm opening a GPay wallet, how GPay works? Yeah, if I'm opening an account on a Airtel Money, or if I'm opening an account on a Paytm, how exactly this wallet is working? Do you have any idea? Anyone?
So sir, can you repeat repeat that one?
Pardon?
Can you repeat that once?
My question is, if you are working on a wallet like a GPay wallet or Paytm wallet, how they work? What is the working procedure of a current wallet, digital wallet?
Sir, I haven't used a Paytm or a Google Pay or anything GPay like that till now, because Phone Pay, no sir, I didn't.
Sir, like they work based on the API of the bank servers. So they contact with the with those APIs and get the work done.
Is it a centralized or
all I know about these things is that regarding this digital payment, all I know is that we'll scan a QR code. That's what I know.
Now you have given me a new concept or new keyword, QR code. Then I'll ask a question, what do you mean by QR code? See, Neeraj, you try to explain something. Please go ahead. I think you are in the right direction. Tell me.
Yes, sir. So like basically when we enter our details, so the app takes our details and accesses API. So the bank API then like it connects with the bank server and gets the details of that particular bank account.
Okay. So you want to tell me that when I give my number in a GPay or Google Pay or Paytm, the Paytm have access to my bank server?
Paytm doesn't have the complete access, sir. Like
Then,
it works on the basis of APIs. Like basically API is an endpoint which the Paytm can contact.
okay, great, great. She's saying the right thing, how the things are working. Make it very simple. The algorithm is that when I put my mobile number or my proof of identification or proof of work on any network or any wallet, they collect the data, transfer to a centralized system. The centralized system got a permission from RBI, and RBI have designed a server where around five people like ICICI Bank, SBFC, there are five banks who have a permission to provide this actual wallet for payment system from RBI. So they will contact with them, and then they have a right to verify. That's fine. But now think about a blockchain. If the same wallet system should be designed in a blockchain where we don't have a centralized system, we don't have any person who say that I take a guarantee or validate every information. In that type of scenario, when I'm creating a wallet, when I'm starting my first transaction on a Bitcoin network, when I'm starting my first transaction on any blockchain platform, uh, or to make it more simple for you people, if you are designing an examination platform and now we want to create a wallet into that examination platform, it means we want to create a space where if I'm putting your marks, if I'm putting your details, that will be intact with the name of a certain person. So when I'm talking about a wallet in a Paytm, it's saying that it's a place where all the transaction and record will kept for a particular user. If Srikanth is a user, all the transaction which is happening with the name of a Srikanth will be kept at one place. That transaction may be in a terms of financial term or it may be non-financial term. Like in an examination pattern, Srikanth is writing paper A, all the marks which is coming to Srikanth will be stored into that place. Like quiz marks for a subject A, assignment marks of a subject A, assignment marks of a subject B, quiz marks of subject B, all things will be placed in a single place. So that's a simple concept of a wallet in a blockchain environment. Fine. And who will validate it? When I enter into a blockchain first time, it will be validated if it's either it's a digital, it will validate in a form of the machine state function that I explained yesterday, or it will be validated like a hash function, or it can be validated by any other algorithm that you are comfortable in. But once I enter, I have to create a wallet. That wallet, if I'm doing into cryptocurrency, it will be known as in financial term. If I'm doing any other transaction, it will be considered as a non-financial term. But the wallet is a mainly a representation of all the transactions which is done by one user into entire blockchain network. So now question is, if I have one blockchain wallet with a, let's assume Bitcoin, can I deal into Ripple with that wallet? No, it's not possible. Although it's a very much possible into a digital wallet what we are using. If I have a GPay account wallet, I can make a payment to a PhonePe. I can make a payment to a Paytm. I can make a payment to any type of other wallet because they are working on a centralized protocol. All the information of all these wallets are kept at a record by a RBI, so RBI is regulating it. But it's not a case in a blockchain wallet. If I have a Bitcoin wallet, if I'm working on a Bitcoin blockchain, I cannot transact with the same wallet in a Ripple or any other cryptocurrency. Similarly, if I've created an examination blockchain and if you have wallet on an exam, you have created a wallet on a examination platform, it does not say that this wallet will work for our attendance platform. If I've created a two blockchain within a Githam, one for attendance, one for examination. So I have to create a two different wallet in a different blockchain. The Srikanth will create two wallet, Neeraj will create two wallet and two different blockchains. One wallet in examination, one wallet into this attendance, and there will be no compatibility between these two wallets together. Although though both blockchain is designed by Githam is the ultimate owner of it, but still you are required to create two different wallets. The purpose of wallet is identification of a user. This identification you can do by a token system. You can provide a digital token, or you can do any mechanism, what I have explained till now. But even you can use a complex hash function to provide a wallet identification. The purpose of wallet is providing a different identity to every user that is coming to my block. That's a simple concept you have to remember. And rest of other thing, event that I have not explained in my previous classes. Okay. See, when we are talking about an event into a blockchain environment, in simple terms, in a computer language, event is a set of activity, or event may be an output of any activity. Like if I'm searching on a Google, I write down which is the most famous actor of Hollywood. So when I'm writing these keywords, I have a certain expectation of an event. That's why I'm writing it. If I'm searching who is the most talented student in a Geetam, and I try to search my entire internal network, so my purpose is to link that searching with a certain event. Every time, if I perform any type of activity, mainly linked to a network protocol, it will link to a event. That event may be in a form of output, or that event may be in a form of notification, or that event in a form of input to other activity. Like if I'm making a transaction into block 1, I try to buy a certain Bitcoin in a block 1. So what I'm creating a sequence of activity, and that sequence of activity will create an event into a blockchain. That transaction will take place. Now, this event may be added as a transaction hash function in the same block, or it may be possible that event will create a new block which have a function or which have an attachment of a previous block. So any type of new addition, either in a form of output or any type of new addition which may act as input for a upcoming event, is known, upcoming activity will be known as an event in a blockchain. So if you see a sequence of a working in a blockchain, they work on a multiple event. I'm putting a request of buying Bitcoin, and my block ID was has 5,302. So once I place my order that I am interested to buy or I am interested to sell, automatically it creates a hash function that is validated by miner. I have already explained all these things, so just recall that class. It will be validated. But when I'm putting this activity, the purpose of this activity is to create an event on blockchain environment. If I'm selling my Bitcoin, I'm very clear it will create an event into my blockchain network. If I'm buying any Bitcoin, I am clearly known that it will create an event, because the output of my activity is the event. This event may act as input for other activity, but every activity must have a certain output, and that output have an impact on entire blockchain. That is simply known as an event. Fine. So rest of the thing I have already explained in my previous classes. So now we'll go in detail about showing you how ledger works. What is the structure of a ledger? So it will help you in designing your blockchain. See, when we are talking about a ledger or a ledger data structure or a structure of a ledger or a structure of any type of public ledger into a blockchain environment, we always remember that the ledger is something which have kept at two places. If I'm making a transaction, as you remember that I'll keep a data at my place. At the same time, I will try to update that data on a blockchain. Like if I'm giving my examination, I will create all the information at my place that I have answered 5 questions in a Code Tantra, and automatically these information is kept by Code Tantra at their server. So the similar activity happen into a blockchain every time. When I'm updating a ledger, the record of a ledger is kept at a two place. The first at my local server, which will keep a recent activity, which will keep a most recent transaction record. And second one, my data, my transaction history will be updated on an entire chain will be updated to entire network, will updated on an entire block. So when we try to go in a deep down into ledger data structure, we found that the ledger can be divided into a two part. The first one, obviously the blockchain part, and second one is a static ledger, which is called wall stat. Fine. A static ledger, it means which is kept at my place. In a simple language, you want to understand this wall stat. You should remember it's a record which is keeping at my place, which is kept at a local server, which is kept at a you can say kept in a my PC for authentication in a future. So first, if I'm making a transaction, if I try to make any request on my blockchain environment, the wall stat will be updated. From where data will be transferred to the blockchain. Fine. So ledger mainly is called if you see in the concept, when the first block will develop, like if I'm developing a blockchain, definitely I have to design the first block first. Without developing a zero block, I cannot go on to block number one, because block number one is connected to block number zero. If you remember that address of a block in a blockchain environment, I clearly told you that the hash function of k have a linkage with hash function k minus one, then timestamp and none swallow. So similarly, when I'm creating a ledger, there is a requirement to create a first ledger into entire blockchain environment. And the first ledger or first block will be known as a Genesis block, which generally have an address which indicated by zero, like it's indicated by H0 in a normal algorithm or normal protocol of a blockchain. So H0 always indicates about a Genesis block. It is the first block which is created by developer or architecture of a blockchain, and from where blockchain has started. Like if you are creating your first block will be known as a Genesis block, and automatically by writing a protocol, you will write down the address of my first block is 0. Then your next block will become something 001 like that. Fine. So when I'm creating a block and when I'm creating a Genesis ledger, Genesis block, automatically at the same time a ledger will be created. And the record of that ledger will be kept at a two places. The one at my local server and the second on a blockchain server. So every time there should be a synchronization between my wall stat and the blockchain. Like if I'm making a request to buy a Bitcoin, or let's assume I want to buy 0.000.5 Bitcoin, the first it will updated into my wall state wallet, and later on it will updated into a blockchain. But before updating into blockchain, it should be validated. If I'm putting my request that I want to buy a 0.000 Bitcoin, which cost me around $10,000, this request first updated into my local PC, that is called wall stat. Once it's updated in my wall stat, which is just a traditional way of storing a database. If you see the wall stat concept, is nothing. It's just a traditional way of storing database. But this database have a direct linkage with a block. Although this is a traditional way of storing, which is kept at your PC only, but here you have a right to modify, add, and delete. If I'm adding any transaction, let's assume I would like to buy a Bitcoin. So I've updated that information. I would like to buy a Bitcoin. So first it's updated into wall stat, then it will transfer into a block. If someone, some minor consensus node or consensus algorithm approves my transaction, the block will accept and update it accordingly. But in any case, if block invalidate my transaction, if block says that no, this transaction is not valid, the wall stat will be delete that record by a method of consensus algorithm. So entire ledger or the ledger structure will synchronize between your local PC, your local storage, as well as the storage on a block, as well as storage on a blockchain. So these two structures will be interlinked to each other. Fine. So if you see a general example of a ledger, this code is written in a Hyperledger. I prefer to work on a Hyperledger, that's why. See, it's just an example of a ledger. where I try to update or I have I try to explain that a transaction of a car into a blockchain environment, or selling of a car, changing of an existing pre-owned car into a blockchain environment. So see, we have a two part. One, the ball said the record which I'll keep, and the second, the detail which is available on an entire blockchain to every peer, every stakeholder which are working into that block. So if I want to change a name of owner in my record, so what I'll do, update my file. I will update my record at my place. So I call all the details which is required to run this blockchain. So what I'm writing, I will write a function. This is a code. This is done into a hyperledger. So we are not doing anything. We are just recalling my contract, that's my smart contract. I'm setting the owner of my car to Matt. Matt is a person who become a new owner. So what I exactly doing, I'm putting a transaction input into my PC, into my Volstat, into my local ledger, where I'm saying that a smart contract which have a detail of all the car owners. Now the owner will be set of my car to a Met. I'm selling my car to Mr. Met. So I've just done this, I've just written this contract, I've just modify, I pass on this information at my local stage, at my Volstat, at my local ledger. It will pass on to the blockchain, get validated by a consensus algorithm, get validated by any hash function, or it will be validated by the miner or anyone the validation activity what you have created into a blockchain who have a right to validate. It may be possible you have decided a certain leader who have a right to validate. Like if you are creating a permission examination type of blockchain into a Gitam, obviously the head of examination have a right to validate everything. So validation algorithm can be designed by you, can be designed by a developer. It may be a leadership validation, or it can be a consensus validation, or it can be a validated by a different node. Anything is acceptable. But here, once I change my local PC, I change the detail at my Volstat, it will pass on to the blockchain, and once it validated that my car owner become Matt and the car Matt was Audi. Once this is validated, both the ledger at a local place as well as ledger into a blockchain, the ledger at every node will be updated. So that's a simple concept of a ledger, and if that concept will intact, the entire information which is available at my local ledger will be automatically available to a block, and it will available to the every node. So this is an ongoing process. Every blockchain, even there are smart blockchain that update the entire data in a nanosecond. But if you design your own blockchain, you can set your timestamp, how much time is required to update from a Volstat to a blockchain, and it also depend on you can say the platform where we are working on. Fine. So in this slide, I try to implement the same thing, the previous thing, how the ledger works with the application of a blockchain. If you see here, this part is an actual blockchain. This rectangular shape explains the actual algorithm of a blockchain. While this is something which is called client application. Like Gitam has become my client. Gitam has requested me to design an examination blockchain. So my blockchain consists of these rectangular squares only. Gitam has given me a smart contract. Gitam have requested me to design a blockchain for examination purpose. So what I'm doing, I'm writing a smart contract. That a smart contract have a different function. Like for a BTech subject A, the passing marks will be 50. BTech subject B, the passing marks will be 35. If you are appearing into this subject, the passing marks will be 50. The 50 marks can be obtained from assignment or like that. So I've written everything into my smart contract. Fine. So after writing this smart contract, now see, I've shown a dotted line as the event. It may be possible the smart contract what I have written over here, it gets connected with a traditional data structure which is used into GTAM examination. I've written a smart contract. I've done a development for my client, GTAM. This smart contract maybe act as an input for a traditional database. A smart contract where I've written an entire information pertaining to GTAM. I've written all the algorithm which is designed to validate examination into a GTAM university. It may act as an event for other activities. It may be possible my smart contract can be used for getting a result for a traditional database system, like if any student who have passed in 2010 and I want to print their result. I want to provide an output or as a grade card of that student. So my new smart contract can act as a agent, act as an input for that event. Although this smart contract has been designed to run a new blockchain, to develop a new blockchain, to develop a new network structure, to design a new network protocol, but still it can act with a previous data structure. So synchronization is very easy in a blockchain. So blockchain, the acceptability increase in a blockchain platform because I can easily connect the advanced format of transaction system, advanced format of network system with my existing data structure. There is no limitation on that. Like if I have designed my smart contract, I cannot connect with my existing data structure. I cannot pass on the data on my existing centralized data processing center. So that's a compatibility with a blockchain. Anytime you can use your output to a traditional method, which will help or which will increase your efficiency. Fine. So return back to the blockchain wala part. Okay. So here I created a smart contract for an examination. Now, every student which is becoming a part of it will have their own public ledger. Now, this public ledger will kept at a student place at a local server as well as entire blockchain network. So if you are participating into an examination, you have written a question number 5 and you got a mark of 5 out of it, this transaction should be automatically updated on a block after getting a validation from a client. So here in this bulk stack, which is your local storage point, you can add, delete, or edit any information. You can add, you can edit, or you can delete any information. After doing it, it will get validated by a method of smart contract. A smart contract will run their entire code and try to find out any addition which is made by a student is in line with the algorithm, the protocol which is written in a smart contract. If it's validated, automatically it will update into the entire blockchain. And this blockchain output can again use as an event for anything. It can be used as an event for a printing. It can be event for providing the information to the vice chancellor. It can be used as an event to providing the information to your HOD. It can be act as an event to provide the information to your parent. So even it may be possible your parent is not a part of this blockchain, but still the output of this blockchain can be act as an event for providing the information of your parent. So that's a typical example of application of a ledger. So every time, the most important part over here, the ledger, when we are creating a ledger in a blockchain architecture point of view or protocol point of view, automatically we are creating 2 different ledgers, one at a local server, one at a blockchain. When I'm updating any information at my local place, automatically after validation, it is added into the blockchain and it will distribute it among all the nodes. So it will synchronize, it will approve by consensus algorithm. That's a typical structure and application of a ledger. Fine. When we are here using, okay, great. Now, we'll come on a use case where we can use and what are the criteria to use a blockchain. Because I told you before start of this class, the purpose of the today's and tomorrow class to make you aware about the component and actor. And after that, you have to find out what are the ideal situations where I can use a blockchain. Fine. So when we are talking about the use case of blockchain, blockchain is something widely accepted network. and used at a multiple industry. Now, none of the industry is far away from a blockchain. Education industry is not mentioned over here. There was a recent argument which was published in 2018, and as per that argument, where Society of Blockchain is claiming that by 2060, this was a story before coming of this COVID-19. They have expectation that by 2060, all the education and higher education system will move to a blockchain. But after coming of this COVID impact, after coming to a forceful digital technology of education, it seems like that they have updated, they have reduced their timeline, and recently they are claiming that by 2045, all the higher education will move into a blockchain. So COVID or this type of pandemic situation have created a more opportunity for a blockchain type of platform, because most of the company, most of the system, most of the organization are forced to work into a digital platform. They are forced to work from a different, you can say, a scope and server methodology. We are working from home. Like I'm giving just a very simple example. We are working from home. Fine. Now, GTAM has given an opportunity to work from home, and as per the GTAM contract, I have to serve GTAM from 9 to 6. Fine. So, is I'm available between 9 to 6 for a GTAM work, or I'm utilizing this time to doing something else? Am I really avoiding the rule of a GTAM? GTAM does not have any mechanism to keep a track of it. There's only one mechanism. GTAM can request me to come in front of a camera and be sitting in front of camera from 9 to 6 and take a lunch break in between that. This is totally impractical. No organization can force any employee to sit in front of a camera and like that. And if I'm sitting in front of camera, it may be possible there's an electricity problem, there's an internet failure. So what is the solution of such type of problem? The blockchain is the only solution. For every organization, if you're facing these type of security issue, if you are facing an issue of validation of a transaction, because this is also a type of transaction where I have to available for a GTAM work from 9 to 6. It's a transaction, it's my commitment to a GTAM, which can be formed into a smart contract format, and that a smart contract format can run on a blockchain. And being a part of it, I'll get a different block, like GTAM has designed a different block for a school of management, then a school of architecture, a school of computer science, and different school of nursing like that. They all become a block into it, and every block there will be a sub block. Then they form a Merkle tree. They will create a total half a structure over here, or they can use a smart contract concept. They will design a fake machine algorithm, and if I become a part of it, they can track my every activity, because my local server will keep a record. And once I'll get connected to a blockchain, all record will be transferred to a blockchain. So my HOD, my leader, have a right to validate whether I was available or not. So that's a simple example of a use case of a blockchain that can be utilized in every industry. Fine. So as per IBM data, it says that these 5 are the major industry, or you can say the prominent industries where blockchain are using into a very fast pace. This slide is courtesy of IBM. IBM is displaying a data of a blockchain usage. So if you go there on that side, they are claiming that these 5 industries is something where blockchain is used very much, and the growth rate of a blockchain using into a financial services is more than 100%. And every year the blockchain is increasing by 100%. And the second one followed by supply chain and logistics. So all these industries are places where we require, or we have a problem of validation. All these industries, you see the industry of a financial services, industry of a public sector, retail, insurance, supply chain, everywhere we have a common problem. That common problem is the problem of a validation. Like in supply chain and logistics, if I'm just transferring one letter, I've given an example in yesterday's class. If I'm just sending a courier from Visakhapatnam to Delhi, I have a problem of validation, whether this my courier is going into a right direction or not, because DTDC promised me that the courier will deliver within 24 hours, but I don't have any mechanism to track it. I have just one centralized air bill number, where I'll put an air bill and on a centralized server, I'll get a pop-up that my letter is at 9:35 at a Visakhapatnam, 9:45 at Vijayanagar, like that. But we don't have an actual tracking mechanism into it. So letter is just a simple example to make it when multiple parties involved into it. If I'm buying a raw material from Tata, and Tata Sulphate mine somewhere in Odisha, and my factory is somewhere in Kerala. So what is the mechanism of keep or tracking of all these things? So supply chain is using a blockchain in big way. They are doing if even a small company of a supply chain is linked with a certain local blockchain kind of structure. Like for a simple example, if you make a request of a mover and taker, you just put a request on a Google. You will connect it to, even if it's a centralized system, I will put on a request on a Google, you'll find there's a different network, different authorities working into Visakhapatnam or every city. They are nothing, they are a local network of a supply chain, they are a local network of movers and takers. So if I shift them from a centralized to a blockchain, they get a major benefit out of it. Healthcare required a blockchain in a big way. I have already explained you how the vaccination program can run on a blockchain in the study class, if anyone remember. So these are the major industries where the problem of validation is there, where the problem of malicious information is very much high, like in a financial transaction, either it's a trade finance, cross-currency payment, mortgage, KYC, cross-border payment, payment of a loan, opening of a saving account, making a transaction into a stock market. Everything there is a factor of a security because a lot of cash involved over here. And if cash is there, there is a problem of a security, there is a problem of validation. So financial services become a first industry who started using of a blockchain as a secure network. Similarly, when we talk about the public sector, it means all the services which is provided to a public, either the healthcare, providing a land record, buying and selling of a property, the policies from Government of India, or similarly, government is talking about one nation, one ration card. So all these things can be easily implemented into a blockchain with a less cost. Always remember, blockchain is very costly affair. So when we are trying to implement a blockchain, we always think about a cost and benefit analysis. Because when I'm implementing a blockchain, it's generally costlier than a central network process. But if I'm getting a major benefit out of it, I can easily manage that as cost benefit analysis, something help us to implement blockchain rather than a normal centralized system. Similarly, retail, even in insurance, because insurance do have a malicious activity when mainly in a case of claim settlement, claim processing, or at the time of making a payment of your premium, there are movies, already there are certain movies which try to explain the problem of an insurance. In Hindi, it's called OANG, and in a certain Tamil or Telugu, it's called Gopala. If you watch that movie, you'll easily understand what is the problem of an insurance and how it can be sorted out in a blockchain. Because you can identify problem over there by watching that movie. Where it says the insurance company claim that it's an act of a god, so I'll not pay for this, you can say, any type of loss which is occurred due to earthquake or any other activity which is acted by a god, they are denied to make that payment. So here I can use a blockchain to overcome such type of issue. That's why these are the major area as per a record of IBM where blockchain is used, and the growth rate of blockchain is very high into these industries. Apart from that, you can utilize a blockchain in education. You can use a blockchain into any purpose as you think of. Fine. So if I want to develop a blockchain, how I can select this is a suitable for a blockchain or this is suitable for a centralized type of network, or what are the criteria which help us that know if these characters are fulfilled, I'll go for a blockchain. If these characters are not fulfilling, it's better to implement a centralized system. Or if these characters are okay, I'll go for a permission type of blockchain. If this character is not there, I'll go for a permissionless type or a permission type of blockchain, or I'll go for a private type of blockchain. So we have to think about these factors. Fine. So first I explain what are the factors of a good blockchain use cases. Then I will share you a research paper where there is a flow chart is given. If I'm following that flow chart, I can easily find out which is the suitable use case for blockchain implementation. Right. So if you see the factors, these are the very general factors. And these factors mainly try to explain what are the different criteria or a step-by analysis where I can develop a good blockchain. The first step or first factor is that there should be a business problem. So blockchain always used to solve a business problem. When I'm using term business problem, it means before designing a blockchain, you should be very clear about what could be the expected output from it. Like if I try to design a blockchain for examination in a GitHub, I know that there is a problem of keeping a record in examination. Initially, I'm keeping a record on a pen and paper method. So it becomes a huge cumbersome task for entire department to keep a record of last 20 years. Because it's a responsibility of university to keep a record of every student who have passed from this university at any time frame. So once you identify that problem, a university may face a problem to keep a record of their students in a traditional database structure. So there should be a clear problem to you unless you are not able to identify what could be the solution of this blockchain, my blockchain output will be not achieved. Fine. So the first thing, you have to identify the problem. The second thing, we have to identify who is going to be a participant. Who is going to be a participant? Which type of transaction I'm talking about? Which type of network I'm thinking about? So here in this point, I have to think about three things. And after deciding these three things, you can design either a permissionless type of blockchain or a permission blockchain. Because if you see that my participants are limited to GitHub, like in my examination blockchain, if I think of that, designing examination blockchain in GitHub, my participants are limited to GitHub. I know that all the portion who is coming and who are joining my blockchain, they have a certain linkage with GitHub only. So definitely, if they are coming from a one organization, if they are coming from a one enterprise, it's better to design a permission or a private blockchain. There is no need of permissionless blockchain when I'm talking about examination. Similarly, I have to think about the asset. What is the transaction happening over here? Is it any financial transaction? Is it happening a non-financial transaction? Is it happening a transfer of certain document or not? Accordingly, I can think about that network. Fine. The third point is talking about how we will implement the trust. Because till now, I have explained you at least 3-4 methods to achieve the trust. The first was the hash function, then the consensus algorithm. Then I told you about the machine stack replication method. So you are free to use any of this method to build a trust. But we have to find out whether I will go for a smart contract, whether I implement a hash function over here. Should I do a stack or machine replication as a concept? So what exactly I require to build up trust into my blockchain? That is the third important factor. Like when I'm designing a permissionless type of blockchain, like a Bitcoin or an open blockchain everywhere, the most, you can say, most acceptable algorithm is a hash function. But at the same time, when I try to design something which is a limited user, the smart contract is workable one. So you have to work over here. What are the need of a trust? Which type of trust algorithm is required over here? The next factor is, already explained. The next factor is I've already explained this participant. I think there is a mistake on preparing this slide because this participant and point number 5 is the same. a need of a participant or a job role is there. So mainly the next factor is to explain what type of information will come to me. Information, it means it may be an actual information or it can be only a query which is coming to me. Because when we are talking about the information of a transaction, it simply says that the transaction should be added into my network. Then it's an actual information. And when I'm talking about a query, query may or may not be added. I'm not sure about this transfer. So blockchain network has to decide which type of transaction will be acceptable, while to make it in a simple for you, like when we are designing the examination platform, it may be possible that I want to add my roll number, registration number. At the same time, I want to add my name. At the same time, I want to add a name of my father, and I want to add a name of my brother. So here, registration number is required, name of a student is required, name of parent is required, but name of brother, name of sibling is not required. So when you are passing this information into a blockchain, or when you are designing the entire blockchain, you have to understand this type of information will be added into a blockchain, and this type of information will be just known as a query. If they are coming, now it's a responsibility of the blockchain developer to either add it or to leave it when and as required. Because it may be possible the two students or two siblings are studying in the same class, or siblings are studying in the same university. In that regard, it may be possible the name of brother becomes significant for a validation. So when I'm designing a blockchain, when we are talking about the transaction, the transaction part or transaction factor, I have to think about the information that will be added, deleted, changed, or transferred. At the same time, I have to think about a query. That a query is nothing. These information may or may not be added into your blockchain transaction. It totally depends on the leader, or totally depend on a consensus whether it's required or not. So my blockchain should be open for both types of information. It should not be limited to one thing. Fine. And other factors are, we have to must think about a legal system. Mainly when we are talking about a legal system, like if I'm designing anything for a financial transaction, I have to avoid a rule of RBI, I have to avoid a rule of the Government of India, I have to avoid a rule of a Finance Ministry of India. Without getting a approval from them, I cannot design my blockchain. So I have to think about the legal aspect as well. We have to think about the cost and benefit. I've already told you that generally blockchain is a very costly affair. When I'm trying to implement a blockchain, I have to incur a lot of cost in comparison to the central network. But if I'm getting a benefit by implementation of that cost, definitely blockchain is a good proposition. Else, we have to drop this idea and drop on a traditional method of a document sharing, traditional method of keeping a record, traditional method of a transaction. So the cost and benefit analysis here you can use, or you can take the help of a finance department, you can take the help of your friend who are very good into accounting and economic study. So we have to think about this benefit aspect as well. Without understanding this cost benefit analysis, we cannot go ahead with designing of this blockchain. So these are the major factors. If I consider, or you consider, you can design a better blockchain. Fine. Now I'm preparing a research paper. So we will study in a detail, but the major part of that paper I'll just display. So if you find that you can easily design this type of blockchain, we can do it. The paper title is, Do You Need a Blockchain? Is really a need of a blockchain for your industry, for your company or not? Just hold a moment, let it be open, so I'll share it. I'll take a 1 minute break and return back, 2 minute break and return back. Fine. So see, this research paper title is "Do I Need a Blockchain?" I'll share this paper with you. Okay. The major part of this research is there is a flow chart which helps us to identify whether we require a blockchain in our industry or not. See this flow chart. It says that do you need to store state? It means the requirement of a need to store a different type of information which is coming from a different sources. Do you need to store state? If yes, I can go ahead. Then I'll check a second condition. Are there multiple writers? Because when I'm talking about the state is simply concept says that we are getting a multiple information from a multiple user at one place. So if that is the case, if that is not a case, you can reject it and you don't have any need of a blockchain. Better to work on a centralized architecture. Don't go for a blockchain. But if this statement is justified, I'll go ahead and check a second condition. Are there multiple writers? Are this state have a requirement that multiple users will use it? If yes, if no, again drop the idea. Don't go for a blockchain. Use a centralized architecture. That's fine enough. If yes, check the third condition. Similarly, check the fourth condition. Fine. See here. After coming over here, all the writer is known. If they are known, we'll check another condition, are they trusted or not. Then we'll decide whether I'm going for a public permission, I'm going for a private permission, or I'm going for a permission with blockchain. If not, then there's no need of a blockchain. This is the most acceptable, you can say, flow chart of a blockchain use case till now. Simply, you can think of this when you are thinking to design a blockchain for your internship purpose or for a really use case purpose. You have to think about that 10 factors what we discussed about. Think about a problem, think about a participant, think about the output, think about the transaction, think about a query, think about the cost and benefit. After doing it, you run this flowchart and try to find out whether you lie on what is the output of this flowchart. If this output is coming on something into a permission or a private permission blockchain, you can go ahead with this problem. But in any case, this is coming something where we does not have a requirement of a blockchain. Don't forcefully implement blockchain into it. Fine. So you have to just remember this flowchart. I'll share this entire detail of this research paper, and I'll also suggest try to read it because it's the most acceptable paper about a need of blockchain. The author is also well accepted in the field of computing from Imperial College of London and Zurich. So, yeah, and for your internship purpose, you have to just remember this flowchart for deciding whether you are going for this use case for your subject purpose or not. So if you combine the 10 factors what I discussed in a slide and this cash flow, you can arrive on a real situation of a blockchain, whether blockchain will solve your problem or not. Now, just a simple example, what we are doing, what I am giving from our last 2-3 days to you, the development of a blockchain for examination purpose. The first thing, you have identified the problem. Second thing, you identify the participants. Shrikant, world even can exist without internet.
Okay, yes.
World can even exist without internet. Just talk to your parents. They are the era where there was no internet in India.
Yes,
But
sir.
still they arrived, they grow, they read, they gather a lot of knowledge, and they are more knowledgeable than us. Because we rely on our internet for everything, we try to search a keyword on a Google. So our information is limited to that keyword. But our parents, when they were studying, if they have to find out a certain keyword, they open their book and try to find out that keyword. And while searching that keyword, they gather a lot of information which is not related to that keyword at all. So they have a wide knowledge base, or they have a huge knowledge base with them. So world can exist without anything. But as a digital concept, as a concept in a current modern era, everyone wants an improvement. The society wants improvement. From a cycle to flying car, from a cycle to a drone, from a you can say a simple bullock cart to a driverless car. So every society needs an improvement. Without improvement, a human being can't exist, because that's a need. That's a, you can say, this is a need to survive. Like when our population was 30 crore, at the time of independence, we are just 35 crore. And that time the agriculture output is around 25% what we are producing currently. So that was enough to feed in that 35 crore. But population has started growing. So we have to use a different technology in agriculture. We have started using different technology. We have started using tractor. Now we are using a smart tractor. Even we are using a blockchain in agriculture field for procurement and selling of a crop which is produced in a different part of our state, or different part of a country, even a different part across the globe. So that's a need of a technology which helps us to improve in our life, which is required to survive in a growing population, growing environment, growing society. If you think about, there will be no internet, but still we were surviving. We have a landline. We book a trunk call. If I remember at my childhood, when I have to make a call from Patna to Delhi, I have to request operator, kindly book a trunk call, and they give us time. Okay, I'll book a trunk call at 7:50 to 8:50. So the entire family were sitting near to the phone, because I'll get a call from the telephone exchange, and then they'll book our trunk call. So that was the initial technology of a telephone. Now the landline has improved. We can connect anywhere without getting a support of exchange. Then mobile came into the picture. Now video conferencing is there. Now we are talking about the telepathy. Even without using any mobile phone, I can talk to Shrikant. Just think about a Shrikant, I will get connected. That is experiment is going on. So there is a need of improvement every time. So even we can make a statement, we can survive without any technology, but technology is required to improve our life. Fine. So
Yes.
here, mainly the concept of the major aspect of these use case of a blockchain that is required for your project purpose. First, you think about that 8-10 factor what we discussed in a slide. Then you use that use case on a parameter of this cash flow, or that flow chart. Since I'm taking a finance classes, I always be into a keyword of a finance. Rather than a flow chart, I'm thinking about a cash flow. Fine. So first you think about that 8-10 factor, then you think about this flow chart, and what you have decided that I'll develop this type of project, or I do this type of blockchain, run on all these parameters. If it successfully qualifies, you develop a blockchain. Fine. So that will help you to designing your blockchain as a project part. So I will share this entire research paper to you, but mainly you have to use this flowchart. Now return back to my slide. Okay. So once I decide the factor, these are the factors, and if these factors are as per our thought, as per the need of our industry, as per talking about this will provide a certain benefit, I'll go and implement a blockchain. Now, the blockchain, what is implemented till now, may be divided, or it can maybe categorized into a different format, maybe divided into as per who are developing it or who are using it, which is called communities in a blockchain. And this slide is also taken from IBM. So it's again first to IBM. If you see there, IBM had divided the blockchain into a three parts. The IBM divided the entire blockchain development. IBM was doing a, you can say, far ahead than other IT companies in terms of blockchain. IBM have developed a lot of platform, lot of IBM doing a lot of exercises for development of a blockchain. Like IBM Watson for a supply chain, IBM is working with a B-Trade. All these information that is written over here, they are a product of IBM. Apart from this Swift. Swift is a banking environment, else everything is something where IBM is working on. That's why they are displaying on their product presentation. So IBM is divided this blockchain into three different categories. The first was a consortium type of a structure, where when we are talking about a consortium type of a structure, it means a group of similar type of company, a group of a similar type of user become a part of it. So here, a legal entity like if manufacturer would like to design a blockchain, if banking is like to design a blockchain, if supply chain company would like to design a blockchain. So rather than designing a blockchain for a one company, because it's a costly affair, they can create a consortium. They can create a group. Like if you think that GTAM had to design an examination blockchain platform, and GTAM find that is a very costly affair, GTAM may talk to other universities. Like they'll come together, or UGC think about the development of a blockchain examination platform, where all 775 university or the private university which is working in India become a part of that consortium. So mainly the concept of a consortium says that rather than developing a blockchain by an individual company or individual organization, the different party, different organization, different companies who are acting into the same space can create a blockchain, and which is very widely accepted. They have given an example. IBM Food Trust. This is an organization which is working with a Walmart. IBM and Walmart have developed a blockchain for a supply of FMCG. The FMCG product. So IBM get a fund from a Walmart, and after getting a fund from a Walmart, they try to connect so many retail houses together. They are connected so many stores there and develop a food trust. Develop an IBM Food Trust where you can say it's a consortium of all the companies, most of the companies which are dealing into a food product. So that's the best example of consortium on the blockchain kind of stuff. Similarly, there can be a second network where a founder-director network. Founder means the leader of that particular industry can think about a blockchain. Like if I'm making a claim that Reliance is a leader in a petrochemical industry, petrochemical product in India, or Jio is a leader into a telecom. Now Jio can think about the development of a network, development of a blockchain network. So Jio will act as a founder because Jio have a lot of money. It's a responsibility of leader to change entire industry. It's always a responsibility of leader to change the industry and way of working of the industry. Tata did many times. The entire industry growth in India is courtesy given to Tata and Birla because they are the person who act as a founder and change entire way of doing business in India. So similarly, when a founder or a leader of industry is thinking to design a blockchain and where all the other company, all the other, you can say, other small company who is helping to achieve the entire business goal can be a part of it. So IBM have developed a Northeastern Trust, and where a lot of companies where that part is coming and being a part of that blockchain. Here, mainly the purpose is the person, the leader who is initiating is become a founder of that blockchain. Mahindra is developing a blockchain in a Pimpri Chinchwad, Pune. Because if you go there, and mainly Mahindra has started that concept in Mumbai, because Mahindra has a company, a major company and a supplier into Mumbai and Pune. Even they have a factory in an Nashik area, but major supplier of raw material, and their fabricated part is coming from Pune as well as Mumbai industrial area. So Mahindra is trying to develop this type of founder-directed network, founder-directed blockchain network, where he tries to connect with all the supplier of auto parts into the same blockchain network, which is still in a going phase. So what Mahindra is doing, it tries to create a blockchain where all the suppliers of a fabricated part of Mahindra become a part of it. So once everyone become a part of that blockchain, Mahindra can keep a better track on manufacturing of their suppliers. Mahindra can keep a better track on a supply of raw material to their suppliers. Because if you see their structure, how these companies are operating, just for your knowledge point of view, either it's a Tata, Mahindra, or even a Maruti, what they do, they form a SEZ, a special economic zone. And in that special economic zone, all the small ancillary companies will become a part of, will come into that SEZ. The bigger company will supply a raw material. Like if Mahindra, I am a supplier of Mahindra, I am manufacturing a product for a Mahindra, the raw material will be provided by Mahindra only. What I have to do, I have to just process it. The quality control will handle Mahindra, because if Mahindra is not giving me a raw material, it means I can use a malicious raw material, I can use a tempered raw material, I can use a low quality raw material for creating their part, and that will hamper the brand image of Mahindra. So how they keep a quality control, they supply a raw material to their supplier, then supplier will process it, they will manufacture the required auto parts, and then Mahindra will buy it. So although these companies are separate from a Mahindra group, but in an inner structure, you will find that they are a part of Mahindra, because raw material will be supplied by Mahindra, the output will be purchased by Mahindra. Even a quality control will be kept by a Mahindra people only. They will do a regular visit to these companies. They will make a testing point over there. They will test the ancillary manufacturing process. Even they test the qualification of their labor and a skilled labor. So all these processes you see there, they have an immediate requirement of blockchain, because to keep a proper track of a supply of raw material, to keep a proper track of a quality of a product they are manufacturing, to keep a track and a time stamp of a material when they will receive, they have an immediate need of development of a founder network. They have an immediate need of a development of a blockchain founder type of network. Fine. So that is the second type of blockchain, which is upcoming everywhere. And third type of, which is the most common and initial stage of a blockchain, which is called community-based blockchain or community-based network, which is very common in a banking sector. Which is very common in a banking sector. Like, to understand it, if RBI decided to develop a blockchain for a banking transaction, so RBI already have a network. All the banks, anyone know how many banks are operating in India? Do you have any idea? How many different banks are operating in India? Anyone have an idea on it?
Yeah, I think about 3,000 maybe.
3,000, okay. You are talking about a branches or different type of banks?
Different types of banks.
Different types of banks. And what are the different category of banks which is operating in India? Although it's not a direct question to a CSA student, but definitely you can think about a career into a financial technology. So you should aware about what is happening in Indian financial market. Okay, now we have one answer, I think. 30 to 40. Okay, I got the answer that 30 to 40. I will surprise you, don't worry. The answer is 95,000. 95,000 different type of banks, and all are a scheduled banks which is working in India. And they are divided. Now the list has been increased by adding of a Paytm Payment Bank, Airtel Payment Bank, Reliance Payment Bank. But approximately 95,000 different types of banks are operating in Indian market, and all are a licensed scheduled bank. They are categorized as a nationalized bank, private bank, old private bank, new private bank, foreign bank, collection bank, and a payment bank. If you combine all these data, 95,000 are a different type of banks are operating, and so you can see a job potential for you people, because every bank is supported by a IT. Without the support of information technology, no bank can survive in a market. Every bank has an ATM. To operate ATM, they require a qualified IT professional. Every bank is running their internet services. Every bank is running their mobile services. So this is a huge opportunity or a job opportunity for you. Fine. So you can think on that. Even a government bank is providing a vacancy for a IT manager, manager for information and technology. So you can think a career into that direction as well. Even a RBI have a post of IT manager. And RBI have started a special school. I'll share the link with you. Someone can try over there. RBI have started a special banking technology school. They are providing a degree into a banking technology. They are providing an internship opportunity into a banking technology. They are providing, you can say, a fellowship into a banking technology. And the fellowship is the amount of 80,000 to 3 lakh rupees per month. So you can think about your career into that direction as well. They are giving a fellowship to a BTech student to do their research, further research into a banking technology. And that fellowship is a by tune of from 80,000 to 3 lakh rupees per month. So you can think and apply over there, right? So the third type of community-based blockchain is a purely community blockchain network where the regulatory bodies or existing system of network can shift their operation on a blockchain. You can think about the RBI, you can think about the Insurance Regulatory Authority of India, you can think about a SWIFT. SWIFT is an organization, it's an international organization, it's a part of international banking system, and all the bank is a part of this SWIFT organization for a transfer of a message and a transaction which is happening across the globe. So if I have to transfer funds from an Indian bank to USA, I require a SWIFT code. So these organizations are developing a blockchain to reduce their workload, to make their system tamper-proof. Fine. So these are the different type of blockchain that is currently working into industry, and IBM is working into each and every segment. Into this segment, IBM have a operation mainly for a supply chain regulatory authority, which is called IBM Watson. Even IBM Watson is used in the Indian market. So many supply chain companies are part of this IBM Watson supply chain environment. Fine. So we will end our class over here. And last class, tomorrow will be the last class from my side. And from Monday onward, Divakar sir will take you about a further discussion into it. So in tomorrow class, we will discuss about 2-3 use cases. So I'll share the algorithm structure as well as the architecture structure, how we can use a blockchain into a specific 2-3 cases. And I will focus on a big data as well, although big data is not my area, but I'll try to share how blockchain can help you to management of a big data, and then I'll share how the what would be the algorithm of a blockchain designing in the terms of loan payment and a mortgage payment, and I'll try to find out something which is specific for manufacturing or any other industry which will help you out to understand the entire thing. Fine. So if anyone have any questions, please let me know. Else we'll end our class over there. And meanwhile, I'll share that research paper to you. So please read it.
Sir, can you please share this PPT also, sir?
Yeah, I'll give a PPT. Don't worry. tomorrow I'll share the entire PPT and all the study material what I have that I have used during my lecture. I'll provide you tomorrow, and I'll share the recording as well. Don't worry.
Okay, sir. Thank
That's
you,
my
sir.
duty. I'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So I'll share you the PPT. I'll share some lecture material as well, and I'll share the recording of all 4 classes. Tomorrow become a 5 classes. So I'll share the recording of all 5 classes.
Okay,
So
sir.
let's
Thank you,
take
sir.
care. We'll meet tomorrow. Yes, I told you I'll give you a recording of all 5 classes. Don't worry. Or someone made a request in a chat box. I'll give a recording of all 5 classes. So thank you. We'll meet tomorrow. The link will be same. There will be no change into a link. The Zoom link will be same. I'll update it for a tomorrow class.